A Weegie story for big Scots Weans, Chapter 2. Malcolm looked around them at the broken vase, the scattered flowers and the wet floor, and said, "Let's go through to the big room, because looking at this mess is ripping my knitting." And so a meeting was hastily convened in the sitting room. And here they are coming up in the sitting room. There's Lucky leaning over the back of the chair. And look, there's Ratty and Wallace and Malcolm, all sitting around thinking, what are we going to do? They all knew that although they had often wanted to do cat-like things, like maybe a wee bit of hunting and killing wee furry or feathery things, they knew fine well that not only did Mammy no approve of that sort of thing, but that she actually laid down the law about it. She had told them in no uncertain terms that there would be none of that kind of stuff here in their home. Nothing was to be murdered by the cats, except for maybe the odd spider. That was because Mammy was kind of terrified of spiders, but Mammy's man told her that no, he would deal with the spiders. It really was time for the other animals in the house to have a serious chat with Lucky, who seemed to have become a wee bit cavalier with his attitude. They decided that it would be best to hold a proper meeting in the back court, because they had heard Mammy talking about the man down the stairs, who had to go to court because he was drunk and just ordinary, and he got fined and got a warning for the judge about his behaviour. So the back court was where they decided they should hold all their serious conversations. They let Ratty out of his cage. Mammy didn't know they could do that, but sometimes, when she was out, they really just wanted to play cats and rats, and Ratty didn't mind so long as nobody got hurt, especially him. So in the proper order, Malcolm, Wallace, Ratty and the dead cat Wogan left the house through the cat flap, marched down 2 flights of stairs and out the back entry of the close and into the back court. It really was time for Lucky to realise that he couldn't just get away with anything. A serious conversation. In the back court lived a wee bird called Brenda, and Malcolm thought she was very wise, basically because he never really understood what she was saying. But her wee beady eyes twinkled with intelligence, so he always went to her for advice. He explained the situation to her, and that they needed to come up with a fitting punishment that would make Lucky a better house pet. Brenda cocked her wee head to the side and said, "Is this no more like a kangaroo court?" "Lucky is a cat. He isn't a kangaroo," pointed at Wallace, nodding sagely. Malcolm, so much wiser than Wallace, butted in with, "Well, Brenda, the problem is that none of us ken any kangaroos personally, and I don't think I know of any living up a close in Hill Head." Brenda just sighed in a wee whistly kind of way. "Well, I suggest we just get on with it and listen to the evidence." "OK, Lucky, what are we to do with you? You've been a bloody nuisance since the day and hour you first walked in." "I have not." "You have," 3 voices answered as one. "When have I been any trouble to anyone?" "Well, here's a wee example for a start. Remember last week when the wee lassie Wayne Matilda was building her Lego house on the kitchen table?" began Malcolm. "Aye, and you tipped it off the table onto the flare. Another wee bit scattered all over the place," jumped in Wallace. Ratty saw his chance to stir it up even more. "Aye, and the wee Wayne gret for about an hour. Squeak, squeak, squeak." "Aye, that's right, Ratty. But the worst bit was when Mammy's man got up in the night for a pee, and he stepped in a Lego brick in his bare feet," Malcolm continued. "Jing's eye," Wallace exclaimed. "That yelly let out." "Aye," agreed a squeak. "I nearly jumped out my fur." "She's going to lose the plot with you. If she doesn't just kill you, she'll chase you around the house with a hoover." Ratty always liked to stir things up a bit. Lucky hung his head in shame. What they had said was all true. Too many times now he had sort of pushed things off the table, or kind of run up the curtains, or sat in Mammy's man's keyboard and chucked cat litter all over the kitchen flare. He had even scratched the sofa from DFS before it had even been paid for. And then, of course, there was always the problem of his addiction to dreamies and catnip. "What do you think I should do to make up to Mammy?" I think your coat's on a sugary peg, son, warned Brenda. Well, that's a hard one, son. So we're going to discuss it between ourselves and see what we can think is best. You just wait out there beside the wash house and we will have a wee chat out here near the bidgie. Okay? Where you go then, son. And here we have Malcolm and Brenda and Wallace and Ratty deciding what they're going to do about Lucky. The judgment. The expensive cats, the pedigree rat, and the smart bird all huddled in the corner near the midgie. In hushed tones, they debated Lucky's future and slowly came to a decision. They came back to Lucky, who was absent-mindedly playing with washing rope, which had unfurled from the washing pole. They all looked very grave. Lucky felt a little afraid. He stood to attention to await his fate. The first thing I have to tell you is that we are all agreed on the best thing to do. We all know that Mammy's going to be really pissed off when she gets home and sees the riot you've created. So we think the best thing you can do is to just lie low for a couple of days. Kinda disappear for a wee while. And then she will grow to be more worried than angry about you. So that when you turn up like the bad penny you are, she will be happy to have you home. Where could I go? Go and find somebody else's house to destroy. Ratty always liked to take every opportunity to put the boot in. No, Lucky. Just keep her to the road, Mammy, until she calms down and starts missing you. Malcolm nodded wisely. Malcolm's right, said Wallace, who always thought that Malcolm was right. So, my plan is to just stay away for a couple of days and then come home. Aye, then you will be welcome back like the prodigal cat, said Malcolm, who often spent happy times in the sitting room when the minister came round. Okay then. But I'm not exactly sure what the Protestant cat is. But if you say that's what I should do, then that's what I will do. I should go where? Squeaked an unlikely source. They all turned to look at the squeaker. Whatever for, Ratty? Have you lost the plot? Well, if I'm no there, and Lucky's no there, then Mammy will think he ate me. I wouldn't eat you if you were the Last Supper, cried Lucky, who occasionally had the misfortune to have been stuck in the same room as the minister during one of his visits. Mammy would never let him in the house if she thought he'd eaten you, you daft gowk. Just stay put, safe in your cage. Nae wandering around for you, son. Ratty was mightily disappointed at the thought of no having a wee adventure. Since Lucky had mentioned the rats under the bridge, he had been harbouring a wee daydream of maybe finding a wee pal, maybe even a wee lassie rat under the bridge. A wee lassie who might be interested in some pedigree love. Aye, indeed. That was a very alluring notion. The companion. Brenda decided that it would be a good idea if she was the go-between for Lucky and the others, and Malcolm quickly agreed to this arrangement as he was worried what Lucky might get up to on his own. Mammy's flat was up a close at number 1 West Bank Quadrant in Hillhead, and it looked out over Kelvin Grove Pad and at the bridge at the bottom of Gibson Street over the Kelvin. Moreover, the big gates into the park were just a few yards away. The animals were convinced that the park would be the best place for Lucky to lie low for a few days. And so the wee black cat and the wee black bird set off to the park. It was late evening when they decided it was time to say bye-bye for the night. The park was darkening and a soft quiet had crept over and the trees were whispering. The river was softly gurgling and every so often the sound of a night creature was heard scurrying around. Lucky thought it was the most beautiful place he had ever seen and curled up under a rhododendron bush and smiled at the night sky. Brenda sang him a wee night song and then she flew back to her nest, promising to be back in the morning at cock's craw.